My name's Dexter Bow, and for the past few days, I've barely been able to sleep. Not since my sister Rita disappeared. Rita was the oldest of us, me, my younger brother Luke, and her. She was the kind of person who could light up a room with just a glance, someone you knew could protect you no matter what. So when she went missing 3 weeks ago, right in the middle of a football season, I couldn't just sit around waiting for the cops to do something. It was the start of fall, and this town was usually all about its Friday night football games, but recently, people weren't as excited. Everyone was on edge. Rumors of a serial killer had started to float around. Some say they've seen him, others claim he's just a shadow in the corner of your vision. But nobody knows for sure who he is, and nobody's seen his face. People are scared to go out at night. I wasn't buying it at first. Serial killer? In our quiet South Carolina town? Seemed like just another urban legend. The kind of thing to spook people when there's no real danger. But that was before Rita. She was the third person to disappear in a month, and I'd bet anything she was taken by him. The police have done their usual interviews, house searches, nothing out of the ordinary. They couldn't find any leads, not a single clue that tied to the disappearances together, but I knew better. I could feel it in my gut. This wasn't random. It couldn't be. Rita wouldn't just leave without telling us, and that's when I made up my mind. If they weren't gonna find him, I would. I had to. I started by retracing Rita's steps in the night she disappeared. It was after one of the games. She was last seen walking home from the school stadium. I'd been there too, with Luke, but we split off early to grab some food. When we got home, she never showed up. I checked everywhere. The fields behind the stadium, the roads we used to take shortcuts on, even the woods that bordered the town. Nothing. It was like she'd vanished into thin air. Every corner of this place felt different now, eerier, like something was always watching. People whispered about the serial killer like he was some kind of ghost. They said he stalked his victims for weeks before striking, learned everything about them. That's when I started to feel it too, like I was being watched. At first, I thought I was just paranoid, but after a while, I couldn't shake the feeling. Every shadow seemed to move, every sound at night felt too deliberate, like someone or something was just waiting. A week had passed, then another. I kept digging, going through old news reports, trying to connect the dots, and then I found something. The previous victims, all of them had disappeared right before a big event in town. It wasn't much, but it was a pattern, and it was the only lead I had. And then there was the note. It showed up in my room one night, just lying there on my desk. I don't know how it got in. It was just a piece of paper folded in half. When I opened it, all it said was, "You're next." Well, that's when I knew I wasn't just looking for the killer anymore, he was looking for me too. The feeling of being watched grew stronger each day, and then, just like clockwork, the strange things started happening. I'd catch glimpses of someone standing in the distance, in the reflection of windows or in mirrors, but when I turned around, nobody was there. The face I saw, it wasn't clear, but it was familiar, like a warped version of my own reflection. One night, I just decided to confront it. I couldn't take it anymore. So I grabbed a flashlight and a bat and headed into the woods behind the house. The air was thick with fog, and every sound, every crack of a twig made my heart race. I was ready to fight. For hours, I wandered, listening, searching, and then I saw him. A figure standing still, just a few feet ahead. The flashlight caught his face, and that's when the world tilted. It was me. But not me. The figure, the man standing there, whatever it was identical to me. Same face, same clothes, same everything. Except his eyes, they were cold, empty, like there was nothing human behind them. I stumbled back, nearly dropping the flashlight. "Who are you?" I demanded, my voice shaky. He smiled, a smile I've seen in the mirror 1,000 times.
"I'm what you're supposed to be."
he said, voice low, almost mocking.
I'm you, but better.
My mind raced. A clone? A double? No, this was something worse. This thing had been watching me, stalking me. It knew everything about me, my habits, my routines, and it had been killing people, including Rita. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut.
I didn't want to hurt her,
He continued almost casually.
but she was getting too close. She figured it out.
Anger surged through me. You killed her? I spat, gripping the bat tighter.
I had to.
He said, stepping closer.
And now, it's your turn, Dexter. You're next, because there's only room for one of us.
I swung the bat, but he was fast, too fast. He dodged effortlessly, grabbing my wrist with a strength that didn't feel human. We struggled, the flashlight tumbling to the ground, casting eerie shadows across the trees. I couldn't breathe. Everything was happening so fast. Somehow, I broke free, gasping, and stumbled back. I had to end this, but how do you stop yourself? The thought spun in my head like a tornado. Then I saw it, the reflection in the puddle beneath me. His reflection, it was warped, twisted. I wasn't fighting a person. This thing wasn't human, it was something else entirely, something that fed off of fear, off anger. It was me, but it wasn't me. It was the worst parts of me. I knew what I had to do. I grabbed the flashlight, shining it directly into his eyes. He screamed. Well, no, it was kind of like a distorted screech. And for a moment, he flickered, like he wasn't solid, like he was just a shadow. He lunged at me again, but this time I was ready. I threw the flashlight to the side and tackled him into the water, forcing him down. His form shimmered for a second. I thought I saw it, the real monster behind the mask, and then, just as suddenly, he was gone. I laid there for a while, breathing heavily, the cool water soaking into my clothes. The fog lifted. The night was still. But even now, as I write this down, I don't know if he's really gone. I don't know if I stopped him or if he's still out there, waiting and watching. Because sometimes, when I look in the mirror, I still see him, and I'm not sure which one of us is real anymore. In my search for answers, I started digging deeper into the history of our town. Something about all of this felt off, like this nightmare was connected to something bigger than just me. Late one night, I stumbled upon an old news archive, articles from decades ago, long forgotten. One headline jumped out at me. Famous singer John Davidson found stabbed to death. Attacked by himself? John Davidson was a big name around here about 40 years ago. His murder had shocked the entire town. According to witnesses, someone who looked exactly like him had walked right up to him after a show and stabbed him in broad daylight. Nobody could explain it. There was no twin, no doppelganger, just him. The case went cold and the mystery was buried under time. But there was more. A few weeks before Davidson's death, there was another report. A research facility on the outskirts of town, Carver Labs, had been shut down abruptly. The facility had been experimenting with cell manipulation, and this part sent a shiver down my spine, but cloning. They didn't release the details, but the place was locked up overnight. No reason given, and no explanation. The article hinted at strange things going on, like the work experiments that went wrong, the odd disappearances, and some workers that refused to speak to the press. And after that, silence. Like the whole thing had been scrubbed from history. Suddenly, everything made sense. This wasn't just some random psycho. Whatever happened in that lab, whatever they created, it's been lurking in the shadows for decades. Clones, replacements, and now, it was after me. And I don't even know if it's dead. I don't know if I killed it. It's just... I don't know. I don't know what to do anymore.